What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. Theeda, how you doing? Welcome to the platform.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I was told there would be pizza.
See,
and, there's not any. So I kind of feel like I'm here under false pretenses.
It's not any physical pizza, but spiritually you're gonna get fed,
Okay, all right.
No, but look, I ain't gonna say it now, but we got a pizza deal coming, I tell it to you about off camera.
Me now.
But it ain't gonna help you now. But it's not gonna help you right now. But in the future, though, it's gonna help you. In the future, it's gonna help you. Trust me, it's gonna help you in the future. But I'm doing great, Theeda. I just, instead of outside of people, shaking me down for some pizza, I'm doing good. I'm really excited about this conversation because you've been doing this work, this community work, this organizing, this fighting for justice, for a long time. And so I want to start at the beginning.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I want to start at the beginning. What inspired you? What led you to get into the work that you're currently doing?
You want to go back to the beginning.
Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning because, man, how many people know about the beginning? I don't know about the beginning. Give us more than we know. We can read your bio, we know, but we want some details of how you got into the work and
So I feel like I was born into it. So we're gonna talk about the beginning. We gotta talk about my mama.
Yeah.
Everett Smith Murphy, who she was a hell of a woman, and she is definitely the reason I am the way I am today. So I was born in Chicago, and she used to take me to Operation Push meetings.
Wow.
She was with Reverend Jackson, and take me there, and I was there listening to them talk about I am somebody.
Right.
And those are my earliest memories. So I have no choice but to be what I am. Right now.
Right. And so, what is like one of your fondest moments of your mom then? That you remember, like that said, man, my mama really, she's that one.
I remember her. She was the one who organized the neighborhood. So she would have block parties.
Wow.
She would organize block parties. We lived on the west side of Chicago, and so I remember those block parties where everybody was out there. Mm-hmm. And whenever anybody had any issue in the neighborhood, they would come in to talk to her. So those are my earliest memories of my mom, really. And I don't think she really saw herself as organizing the community.
Right.
She was just doing what she thought was right.
Right.
But she was organizing the community.
What was some of the, because it's challenges to organize. It ain't always pretty. It ain't always easy. So what were some of the challenges you think you seen your mom face, like being that community builder, being that person that people came to talk to when there was an issue or like something needed to happen, like.
So when we moved to Arkansas, which that's now the South,
right,
and she's still doing community minded things. She would get in trouble at her job for advocating for the people that she worked with. So she was a social worker. So her first job when we moved to Arkansas was as substance abuse counselor, working with people who were, poor and in the community.
Right.
And so she would advocate for them, and she would get in trouble with her bosses. And, was afraid of losing her job. And I think eventually she did lose that job. because she advocated so hard for the people that she worked for. So she set that example for me.
You grew up with any siblings?
Yes, I'm the youngest of many.
Oh, the
And
youngest.
yes, of many, and cousins who are like siblings.
Right.
Yes, and nephews and nieces who are like siblings.
Well,
so there are a lot of us.
What would they say about a young Theeda Murphy?
I didn't say anything. I was very quiet.
What,
I stayed to myself.
what would they say about you? You just stay to yourself.
I stayed to myself. They would tell me I needed to speak up more.
So how did you go from not speaking up to now? Yeah, your voice is pretty powerful. You don't hold back now. Yeah, hell of a transformation.
I guess my genes kicked in at some point.
And so, you went to FIS.
Yes, I went to Oakwood for my undergrad.
You went to Oakwood for undergrad. Mm-hmm. Oakwood in what's that?
Huntsville.
Huntsville.
Mm-hmm. It's now Oakwood University.
Oh, okay. So at this point, what is a young Theeda? You know, she's in college. You know, where's your mind at this?
That was the furthest I'd been away from home.
Okay.
My mother was okay with me going there because, Oakwood is a Seventh-day Adventist school. We were Seventh-day Adventists. And so, she could kind of keep an eye on me there.
Right.
She wouldn't let me go too far away. She was teaching at UAPB, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff. I was not going to go there. So Oakwood was the compromise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What was you studying?
at that time, I was studying accounting.
Oh. Oh. Wow.
Yeah, so Oakwood was like my first experience with Black people who were from all over.
Okay.
So that just changed my whole point of view of what it means to be Black.
What did you mean? What did you think it meant before then?
I had been very sheltered and I only knew people when we were in Chicago. I was so young, I only knew my family, really.
Right.
And people at church. And then when we moved to Arkansas, I only knew, Southern Black people.
Right.
So when I first met people, from the Caribbean.
Right.
Or even from Europe, from England, I was like, Black people talk like that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I understand. Yeah. Especially if you've never been exposed to it, right?
Right.
Like, wait a minute now, that accent a little different. And so, at this time, you picked accounting. Why did you why accounting? What made you?
So at that point, I was trying to differentiate myself from my mother, who's a social worker.
Right.
So, accounting, I could get a good paying job doing accounting.
Right.
And I was trying not to go into social work or do that kind of stuff.
You was fighting it.
I was fighting it.
Why was you fighting it? Just because you didn't want the.
I don't even know, but I was trying to be myself.
Right.
Yes.
You was fighting not to be yourself. It seemed like that what it seemed like.
Yeah.
And so is that you graduated with an accounting?
I graduated from an accounting degree.
Wow.
My first job was with the IRS in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I became a CPA.
Wow, you was on the whole career path.
I was on the whole career path, but IRS, they're assholes to everybody. They're not just assholes to people who have to file taxes. They're assholes to the people who work for them.
Right.
So
you said you couldn't do that.
After a while, I couldn't do that.
Okay. So where you are mentally now, like you just like, okay, now I want to go back to school, or?
Yes, that's when I ended up at Fisk because I was changing careers at that point.
Okay.
So I majored in psychology at Fisk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you here in Fisk. Mm-hmm. Jubilee Singers, Freedom Riders,
I worked at Race Relations Institute with Dr. Wimbush.
So, hey, then,
Yes.
So here you are. What impact that FIS have on your life?
Um, I learned a lot when I worked at Race Relations. Because as you know, race relations back in the late 90s was probably the only place in Nashville where we could have really honest conversations about race. And we weren't afraid of repercussions,
Right.
much to the chagrin of the administration at Fisk. We would talk about anything.
Right.
So I got a chance to really, really see how the politics of power work and racial dynamics in those situations, and really start honing my own political framework
Right.
that I would work from. So I would say that race relations with Dr. Wimbush as the director was definitely Black nationalist
Okay.
and Pan-Africanist.
All right.
And we were pushing reparations. So those are the type of things that really shaped me.
How did you? What was the biggest difference between Theeda in Huntsville and Theeda in Nashville?
Besides being older.
Besides being older, like because clearly, right, it was a mental shift, right, drastically, right, from
Right.
accounting.
Right. I
and
went through some things
Yeah.
in Atlanta. I went through some things.
You went through.
I went through some things.
That's what it takes usually. It takes some going through some things. You like, hold on, wait a minute. I need
I
to.
went through some things that involved boyfriends, and
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your rite of passage as a young Black woman, right?
Right.
So when I moved here, I was much more independent. By the time I left Fisk, I was no longer Christian. I connected with the EFA community in Nashville.
Okay.
Yes, so I started studying with them. And so I've been rolling with them since 2001, really.
Okay.
So more than 20 years.
Yeah.
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 So that's probably the biggest shift.
And how did this started affecting, like, I guess, your career path?
My choice of religious expression was definitely political, because I feel like almost everything I do as a Black woman is political anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So if I am choosing to live my full life and be my full self, it's a political decision. So I'm going for it.
Right.
I mean, y'all gonna have opinions about how I live my life and what I do. So fuck it. I'm
Right.
gonna live my life the way I want to live it.
Right.
So,
And so at that point, so I believe everybody that has that type of mentality, whenever they come into that type of mentality, right? They're rebellious. I'm gonna be my complete full self. Come to understand that, like, professionally, is there consequences, repercussions, I suppose, right? If you want to, for lack of a better uses, right? Because we know some employers, some organizations want you to conform.
yes.
Right, they prefer you perform. They try to convince you to conform, and these things might be in subtle ways, or maybe they might be overt or covert. They might just straight out tell you, "Hey, I want you to cut your hair. I want you to shave your beard. I want you to dress this way." Or it may just be subtle things like, "Oh, hey, do you plan on wearing this all the time, or you have other pants?" We know these microaggressions that might happen.
So when I switched careers, went from the corporate accounting career to working in community mental health. So my first job was with the police department. So, which was not as much of a problem as you would think, because at the time, the person who was over behavioral health was Dr. Lorraine Green.
Okay.
And Dr. Green, if you know anything, if you remember Dr. Green, and she is no longer with us, she was a revolutionary. And so being in that department with her where I learned so much, I did not have a problem with her. She had a problem with the rest of the department. But any hits that were coming, because she was the type of boss that she was, she took those hits. I didn't have to take them.
Right.
And I appreciated that, and I respected her for what she was attempting to do in the police department. And if anybody could do that type of counseling or community work in the police department, it would have been her. And it wasn't working, which showed me that is not the place for that type of. The police should not be involved in any type of mental health. And I learned that, watching her try to make it work.
Right.
And getting all the pushback that she got.
Right. Well, there's a program out there right now where it's mental health and police are working together.
I know.
Here in Nashville.
What most people don't know about that program is that there are already counselors within the police department. When I was there in the early 90s, they were already trying to reform the police by bringing in mental health. And it didn't do shit. It didn't change anything about the culture. It didn't help anybody. We were very limited in what we could do for people.
Right.
And the reason that is because everything we do was mediated by the police department culture. It was mediated by the police department. So they would determine who was worthy of treatment.
Right.
And that should never be.
Right.
That should not be something that's gate kept by them. And that's why it didn't work.
Why do you feel that as a nation, and I would even say as a city here in Nashville, that there seems to be an agenda or push to have police involved in
Money.
Everything?
Money.
Money.
So if you remember when we very first, pre-pandemic, 2019, talking about the police department and mental health, their line was, well, we're not social workers. We shouldn't be expected to do that. And so those of us who were pushing invest, divest, otherwise known as defund the police, a term that I do not like, we're saying, okay, then let's invest in mental health.
Right.
And then it became very clear that when we said invest in mental health, we meant money.
Right.
And so now they're not giving up any money. So now they want to be social workers.
Right.
Because they don't want to give up the money.
Right.
And that's all it is. Because they will do anything to keep their budget from being cut.
And the thing about it is, I look at it, okay, have the budget, whatever your budget, but fund things, just fund the other stuff, right? Fund other programs, right? That don't mean your budget can stay the same. Do what y'all do.
But they can't, because we're talking about a limited amount of money.
Right.
So if you are going to adequately fund social goods, their budget is going to have to be cut. That's just the reality.
They find a way to. My thing is, they find a way to fund other things and not cut stuff all the time. Right? Magically money appears.
And their answer to this so far has been to build a whole hospital, but it's in the jail.
Right.
Right. And they come up with all these lovely little specialty courts in which you can be diverted into treatment, but you got to get arrested. And now they're talking about building this big juvenile jail instead of just building a center in the community
Right.
where the kids are not involved with the courts, where
Right.
police are not involved, instead of doing that, and where the threat of incarceration is not hanging over it.
Why don't you like the phrase defund the police?
Because I'm an abolitionist.
So if just get rid of it.
Well, fuck them.
So so this is gonna get spicy now. I truly believe this is just I don't have any facts to back this up. But I think that more people want police than don't want police.
I know.
Right.
I know that not very many people are abolitionists with me.
Right. And I'm not sure I don't know if I'm an abolitionist. I know something needs to change, right? And it may be just from I might be a prisoner of the system too when it comes to thinking about, okay, if we don't have police, what do we have? Right.
That's always the hang up.
That's the hang up, right?
That's the hang up.
That's the hang up. What do we have?
Because we know we know what we have now ain't working.
Right. We know that, right?
We know that. But we don't have anything else in place.
Right.
So I take it seriously that our job as abolitionists is to start building those alternative structures.
Right.
And to show people that they do work.
And so is community policing, is that an alternative structure?
No, that was a failed reform. We've already tried that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to go back to that.
So have you thought about some other ways, or are there other programs that are in pilot phases in other parts of the city or the world that, that community is experiencing, like, hey, like, what if we don't have police in this traditional way involved in our community?
Yeah, there are other abolitionists in other cities who are grappling with this problem. Mainly where it has been coalescing is around mental health.
Okay.
And I think mainly because that's the easiest thing to conceptualize.
Okay.
Before you go to anything else, it's easy for people to say, yeah, police shouldn't be involved in mental health crisis. And so in Nashville, there are two different community-based initiatives that are happening. I know you're familiar with the Noah Heals initiative.
Right.
That's one. And then there's the initiative that is run by the group that I worked with, the Nashville Community Crisis Response. And Nashville Community Crisis Response is trying to really come up with some alternatives that are truly based in the community, accountable to the community, that doesn't become another part of the nonprofit industrial complex, which is also a thing.
A thing, for sure.
Yes,
Yep.
Because what happens with that is that they get accountable to their board and their funders, and their board and their funders don't live in the community. So we have to come up with something that's in the community.
Right.
So that's why we are doing a community-based survey in which we're trying to get input from the people who are most impacted.
Right.
And go from there and develop a model from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there drastic differences or significant differences between Heal's model, which was a branch off of Cahoots,
Yes.
right? Then what you all are doing?
Yes, because Noah, who's working on that, has pretty much decided that they want to base their model on the Cahoots model.
Right.
And Nashville Community Crisis, we've talked to the people in Eugene, and we feel like there's probably some good things about that model. But Eugene is very different from Nashville.
Right.
So we are also talking to people in other places, like in New Orleans,
Okay.
in Chicago, places where those communities, their experience and relationship with the police is about like ours. It's contentious.
Right.
And not trustworthy. So they really are trying to come up with something that does not involve police.
Now, I want to go back to talk a little bit about the organization that you're a co-director of, No Exceptions Prison Collective,
Yes.
Collaborating towards abolition and liberation.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, more about kind of what that organization does in its mission.
So we are abolitionists in every sense of the word. So yes, we are trying to abolish the prison industrial complex. We don't feel like cops and cages need to exist, but we are also slavery abolitionists because slavery still exists.
It does.
It still exists
In the Constitution.
In the Constitution, the 13th Amendment has that big exception. That huge exception.
And we want no exceptions.
And we want no exception. And that exception has been doing so much work. So much work. Which is why we have the biggest prison population that has ever existed in all of history.
Right.
Because of that exception.
Right.
And those people are slaves.
And so one might ask, we abolish prisons, jails, these cages that people are put in. How is that managed when a community member is harmed by another community member? What is it restorative justice approach? Is it a different type of timeout that the person that committed the offense? What happens there? Because I think we all just used to, hey, this person committed a heinous crime.
Yeah.
They deserve to be put in the cage, right?
Right. So the idea of abolition is if in order for it to work, society has to change completely and at a very fundamental level. So we have to not just ask ourselves about how long people should be in jail. We have to ask ourselves as a society, why are we producing so many people that we have to put away? And the answers to that are, we have so many people who live in communities that are under-resourced. People who don't have health care, people who don't have places to stay, people who don't have food, people who don't have jobs that allow them to live.
Make a livable wage.
Yeah. And so that's where we begin with abolition.
Okay.
We begin with that. So what we're talking about is nothing less than a wholesale change in how we deal pretty much with everything in this society. And one of the things that really bothers me when I deal with Americans in particular is this American urge to punish people. And we enjoy watching people suffer and get what they deserve. And that gets in the way of developing systems that don't have punishment at the center of it.
Right.
Because if you think about it, all of our institutions, including the institutions that are supposed to be helpful, they all have punishment and coercion at their core.
Right.
They're all punitive.
Right. Yeah. And we learn it, right? And we adapt it in our parenting, and then it's adapted in schools, and then you really getting prepared for it. If you do end up going to jail or prison, you've already been kind of,
Yes, because
trained.
all of our institutions are just different flavors of prison. All of them.
And so get rid of everything, tear everything down, and start addressing the things that are putting people in those situations to end up in a courtroom.
Yes.
Now, what type of accountability as community members do we have to?
Our accountability is then directly to each other.
Okay.
Because the whole idea of putting someone away for a certain amount of time,
right,
is not addressing what happened.
Exactly.
It is absolutely not addressing what happened.
Right.
So transformative justice, restorative justice tries to get at what happened between these people that led to this harm.
Right.
And what can we do to address it?
Right.
And what can we do to keep it from stopping again? And so I believe that the more we try to do that, we strengthen relationships between people.
Right.
We allow people to grow beyond the mistakes they made and the harm they caused and remain in community. And then we don't end up destroying people and communities in the name of public safety.
Right. Yeah, that's deep. And I think that is really hard for a lot of people to wrap their mind around because we don't know. I think just especially in the United States, you know, it has to be so much unlearning.
Yes.
So much unlearning, and you know, it has to be a lot of acceptance too, right?
Yep.
Especially if you're talking about transformative or restorative justice, because that means if I committed an offense against Theeda, that means I have to take accountability and admit, yes, you know, I hurt you.
Directly to me.
Directly to you, right? Not through a third party.
Not to a third party.
So I have to say, Theeda, I'm sorry that I killed your brother. I apologize.
Now, what you gonna do to make that right?
Right. How can I make you whole? What do I need to do to make you whole? You know. And right now, the quickest answer for our state, our country, is to put me in jail for life, possibly. Right. And it gives that's money. That's another money piece to that too. And with restorative justice, that looks different.
It looks very different.
It looks different. You know, and that's something both parties got to agree to, right? Because that's where the unlearning comes from. Because you may feel like, nah, just throw Jerome away for life. That like I don't want to see Jerome. I don't want to hear his apology. Is not gonna bring my brother back,
Right.
right? Which it won't, because the harm has been done,
Right.
you know. So that apology, I don't want that. I want him to just suffer in a cage.
Right.
You know,
But
how do we unlearn? How does the victim get past that? Or what? Like not even get past how?
And as my work as a victim advocate and counseling victims, I've seen people get past that. I've seen people know and show love and care and concern toward the person that harmed them. I've seen them show, care about how that is impacting that person's family. So people can do it.
Right.
People do it.
Right. Yeah. It just take time, I suppose. Right.
And support.
And support. Okay. You all do a lot of policy work too.
Yes.
Especially around prisons. And trying to abolish some things around that too. Y'all just trying to abolish everything. And so can you tell us a little bit about some very harmful policies, especially around prisons? I know one in particular that I've been following is that 51 years.
Yes.
Which
is a relic of the 94 crime bill.
Okay.
So what we have been trying to do for several years now, 6 or 7, maybe even 8 years, is attempt to get our 51-year life sentence. So there are 3 possibilities in the Tennessee sentencing structure. So you have the life without parole. Then you have life with parole, but that's 51 years. And then you have the death penalty. So the 51-year life you can't go to parole unless you've done 51 years. Well, no one lives that long.
Right.
So it's actually a second death sentence.
Right.
And before the 94 crime bill, it was 25 years. So you could go up before the parole board in 25 years if you served 25 years, which gives people a chance to because most people are convicted of their crimes when they're young. So if they're in their 25 years, they still have a chance to live a life.
Right.
And have a second chance to be better. And we know people who have come out, and they have been such a, because when you're in there, you change,
Right.
you mature, you grow, and they've come out and they have really contributed to society, which they would still be in there if it was a 51-year sentence.
Shout out to Raheem Buford, because he
Shout
wanted
out
he
to
wanted
Raheem.
he wanted them ones.
Yes, he
you know?
is.
He
Yes,
wanted
he
them
is.
ones.
And how much we would have missed if he was still inside.
Right.
Yeah. So we got it through the Senate, the state Senate, last session, and it was passed overwhelmingly. We only had like a handful of people who voted against it. And the persuasive argument was about second chances and redemption, because everybody deserves that. But we were not able to get it through the House. So it's not dead. We're still working on it.
Right.
So we're considering what our options are for the next legislative session.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing that we're working on, we alluded to when we talked about the no exceptions clause that is in the Tennessee state constitution. It is going to be on the ballot in November for people in the state to vote on and remove that exception from the Tennessee state constitution. Because, you know, the 13th Amendment doesn't allow individuals to own other people as slaves.
Right.
So the government, the state, shouldn't be allowed to own people as slaves either.
And so, getting that exception clause removed, what freedoms and rights do those individuals that are incarcerated get back? Do they get back voting rights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They that's the main thing
Okay.
that changes. And then the other thing is that, you know, when you have a provision that allows people to be discriminated against, which is what that does. It creates second-class citizenship for people who have been convicted of a crime.
Right.
And so they can be discriminated against in housing. They can be discriminated against in employment.
Right.
And that keeps them from being able to reintegrate into society.
Definitely.
So we need to remove that exception, you know, so that they aren't slaves and so
Right.
that they aren't second-class citizens. And it's just,
Right.
I mean,
What do you think about this, Theeda? And this is something I've been thinking about for years. Being a person, because of just, you know, my social and economic area growing up, I have best friends that when I went to college, they went to the penitentiary.
yeah,
Some of them went to the penitentiary, you know, twofold. I went to go get a master's, they went back to the penitentiary.
yeah,
Right. And I always said, you know, because I understand what that F on their record, you know, prohibits them to do, like housing, employment, it just, you know, it doesn't help, right?
No.
And I always said to myself, it's like, well, you know, if you served your time, right, that was issued by a judge, the state, a jury, whatever, right? You know, why do people have to remind others, right, what that felony is? It's going to be on your record when they do a background check. Why does that even have to?
And it's that American urge to punish. You
Why-
just got
yeah,
to punish folks.
I
Just
don't-
want to see. Just we
I don't understand that.
we get some sort of perverse satisfaction from watching people suffer, if we think that they deserve it. And what really saddens me about this is that this provision has caused a new Jim Crow, which, you know,
Right. Yeah.
that book by Michelle Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
But it has caused that, and for the most part, we in the Black community have allowed it to happen because we look at people who have committed a crime and don't want to be associated with people who have committed a crime. So we are willing to let them be because we don't want to be associated with criminals. We're not criminals, and we don't want to be associated with criminals.
Right.
It is made us turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to people, to our neighbors, our family members, because I have family members who have been on the inside,
Right.
and who have been under supervision, and we don't want to talk about them.
Right.
We don't want to talk about them because that's shameful.
Yeah, and I think depending on, you know, kind of how conscious or woke or educated that you are, like, to me, it makes sense. You know, if you look at our history, if you look at the opportunities that we've been given, if you look at the systemic discrimination, oppression, like, you know, like, yeah, that's what it kind of gonna lead to if you don't have anything else. So when I see a brother or sister that went to jail for selling weed or whatever it may be, like, you know, I take in all those factors into consideration. Like, okay, how'd you grow up? What opportunities you had? What opportunities your parents have? Well, how did that kind of domino effect happen generation after generation? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Let's yeah. But like you said earlier, because there's nothing in place at the beginning, right? To say, okay, to deter that even from being an option, you know, in the first place, those resources in community, whether it's housing, you know, hunger, you know, vocational school, whatever. It could be a lot of different things, right?
Right.
And they're just not there. So yeah, what you expect? And then propaganda. Right. You know, if this is all you showing me that I can do, or that I am, okay, well, you know, let me not disappoint you.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right.
All right. And so that's why I'm not hard. I just can't be hard on black folks or people of color, but specifically black folks. I just can't. It's hard for me to be hard on them because I take on all those situations. Everybody's story different.
And we don't have no room to fuck up. Because
right.
If you fuck up, you gone.
Oh, zero. And that's why navigation is huge.
Yes.
And how to navigate this, like, this white supremacy, because, you know, most of us don't come from money and resources that can make up for your fuck ups. That's right. And so you get one shot.
You get one shot.
you get one.
That's not human. I mean, human beings fuck up over and over and over again. So when you expect people to not do that, then you're putting them in a situation where it's just a setup to fail.
Right. I don't think I would, if they was to put me on 10 years probation right now, I don't think I could not violate. 10 years, you know, like it is, like it's.
And considering that what is considered a violation or what is considered a crime is a political thing, you know, the things that you are more likely to do in your situation becomes a crime. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. And so you brought up community, and I gotta bring this up because, you know, we were just recently on a panel together, and you talked about unity within our Nashville community, within our, you know, community organizations, and you mentioned, like, hey, you haven't seen it since the COB, Community Oversight Board.
For about 5 minutes when we were doing that, it was like it was there. And it didn't last. It was gone.
Why? And you've been doing this a long time, you know, successfully.
I mean, it's not that long.
I'm saying, but like I'm giving you your flowers. I'm gonna give you your flowers. You know, we like to give people. You've been doing it. You still young, but you've been doing this a long time. Either way, a young long time, right? A young long time. You didn't seem more than most. And you have a perspective. You have a lens. And you have a cognitive maturity that, you know, that people that do this work like myself that haven't been doing it as long can learn from and adapt, because you've seen a lot of things that, you know, like, I'm pretty sure you can look at some stuff and say, yeah, you know, I'm glad that y'all doing that, but that might not work because, like, we tried this 10 years ago, or I seen, and so and I know you gotta let people develop, right? You gotta let people just go ahead and go down your own path and grow, right?
Yes.
And so that unity, that really stuck with me. Like, dang, you know, I wonder what Theeda talking about. So, but how do we get back that? like, how can we create that unity? Because, when I talk to all these many people on these platforms, right? On this platform, people want multicultural organizing, and they say that's the way, and coming together. And right, everybody don't practice what they preach, apparently, but it seems like that's something that's we know we need it to win, right? We need unity to come out successful.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we always got a partner on the same thing, because we might have different perspectives and views in different paths, right? Which is okay.
And I think that's part of it, because no one group has the answer.
Right.
And I feel like these issues are big enough and complex enough that even groups that seem to be doing something that are opposed to each other still have a place.
Right.
Because we're talking about big complex issues.
Right.
So if I'm doing this here and you're doing this here,
right,
it's coming from both ends. So I feel like one of the things we need to do is what I was saying on the panel. We need to give each other some grace and be gentle with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're way too harsh. We're way too harsh with each other. Some people will say that I'm harsh to people too, but
but sometimes though harsh can be love though. I believe because you love somebody so much, and because you care for them. I ain't gotta be love, because you care. Like sometimes, sometimes your mama or your daddy whoop you because they love you and they don't want to. They saving you for something else. From how this can, like, if you do this in another environment, it can be detrimental to you.
I don't know. I mean, this is one of these things that I struggle with, because I don't quote the Bible much, but this is true. There's nothing new under the sun, and there's a time and a place for everything.
Right.
And that is in the Bible. But the key is knowing when is the time and when is the place. And when you start dealing with harshness and negativity, most of us can't stop.
Right.
We go way too far than what is warranted. And it's also the first place we go.
Yeah.
It's the absolute first place to go, and it should never be the first place.
Well, and this is something I've been guilty of myself. And I got to unlearn, and really it's self-hate. Mm-hmm. Because we've learned, especially I think as a black man, I've learned to respond to other black men with aggression. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, okay, it might be a situation where you don't like how I'm doing something, and you let me know that, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't like it. Mm-hmm. And so therefore we got, now you are opposition. We got beef because you gave me maybe even some constructive criticism. Right. Right? But because I don't even think you should be even giving me any type of criticism at all. Mm-hmm. And because you look like me, and this is how I've been learned to take these type of things. Mm-hmm. Now I want to escalate it to something physical, probably. Right. And so I had to, I've had to check myself on that, just personally, and then again just learn that just because Theeda is doing something different doesn't take away any of the credit or take away any of the impact that she can have. And I should champion that, instead of saying, well, Theeda doing this, it ain't gonna work because da da da. Right. She should be doing it. Where I think a lot of it's easy for people to do that. Right?
Yeah, and I can't put myself in the position of what's gonna work and what isn't, because the things I'm doing ain't really working either. White supremacy is still in effect.
Right.
But I haven't stopped. So I can't tell you that's not gonna work.
And that's why if you trying, I'm championing you. Even if you trying, I'm gonna champion you, because it's like you said, it's so complex, and we all fell in some type of way, form, or fashion. Right. And I'm a champion if you're trying. We don't have to be adversary about that. Now we can have private conversations about, about our differences, or about strategy and models. And we can leave that table.
And we always have to talk about whether people are acting in integrity, which is another conversation.
Yeah.
Whether people are acting in integrity and good faith. But these are conversations that have to happen openly and transparently, apparently,
Right.
and involve the community.
Right.
We can't just especially when we're talking about integrity and good faith.
Yeah.
That's not something that should be happening with everybody knowing what's going on
Right.
and what is happening.
We have judicial elections happening right now. I think like May 3rd is the voting day. We got school boards. Some of those seats are up. In 2023, we have the mayor up for election and council members. So it's just 2 important years, for elected officials and for Nashvilleians to have their voice be heard through voting, right? 2-part question. What is your thoughts on voting and the impact of voting? And then the second question is, how important are these, elections that we have in this year and next year on what Nashville looks like in some cases the next 8 years and in some the next 4 years?
It's very important, and voting is very important if you can vote. So we have so many people who can't vote,
Right.
which doesn't mean that they don't have a part
Right.
in our in the process. So I know one of the things that I definitely want to see, which I feel like configurations like the Black Nashville Assembly are trying to do, is really, really bring in people who are disenfranchised and let them be a part of the process, as they should be, because they're usually, especially when it comes to the judges and the DA,
Right.
they are the ones who get ate up and chewed out.
Right.
So to not have them not have any say in what's going on,
Right.
no, we got to make sure that they get represented in this process. And so voting is important, but it isn't the only thing. And once people get in office, voting is like the bare minimum.
Right.
It's your bare minimum. You've got to do more than that. We've got to do more than that. We don't have the luxury of just voting and then forgetting about it.
Right.
And the only way anybody in those positions, and we have some good intentioned people who are running for these offices. I really believe that they have good intentions. These are good people with good intentions. But those offices are corrupting because the system is corrupt. So if we do not hold them accountable, they will go in there and they will, as so many people have, gone in with good intentions and just become part of the system. And it's because we allow them to.
So, this is interesting, because I've said this. The system is bigger than one individual, 2, 3, 4. And I feel that regardless of all the good intentions you have, you kind of compromise once you enter that system, right?
Yes.
Because you can't control everything that happens, right? And there's so many other factors at play.
Yes. And those factors don't go our way.
Right, exactly.
It's not our desires that are being enacted automatically.
And so, and that's why me personally, when it comes to elected officials, I'm not too harsh on them either. A lot of times, because I understand that,
Some of them I am.
yeah, some of them you have to, because some of them are just blatant, right? Some are just blatant, like, come on, like, you just blatantly perpetuating harm, right? But then some I think are just victims of just a system that their hands are really tied. They can't as much as they talk and have a plan, the system has a different plan.
Yes. And so, I feel it's important for us to have people on the inside who come from, are genuinely connected to the community.
Right.
But that's not going to work unless there's a stronger outside game.
Right.
Unless the people on the outside are strong enough and consistent enough in keeping them accountable.
So, this we finna get into some stuff right here. So look, speaking of keeping the people accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna focus on our black elected officials right now. Right? You know, we can be black folks tend to be harder on other black folks. Because of proximity, because we
expect more from
we
them.
expect more, right? Whether fair or not, that's what we do, right? And what I tend to see happen with that accountability, right? People start taking stuff personal,
Yeah.
and I think language is important around that, because if I call out a council member or any elected official that may be black, and if I don't choose my words carefully, it can come off as a personal shot when I may be really talking about the system that they're perpetuating and not the decisions that they may be personally making, but how they're perpetuating harm against folks and against community by the decision within that system. You know, how do we work around, or is there a workaround, or is there a language that could be used where I can address him or her in that elected official position, and they really understand that, like, I'm not taking this shot at you personally, Theeda. Like, you just happen to be in the seat of a system that I have a problem with, that I feel like that you're assisting in the harm of community. Like, and it seems like those lines get real blurry, between the personal and, like, hey, I'm not attacking you personally, but I'm attacking the system that you are employed by.
So here's what I feel about that. It is more incumbent on the person who's in power to understand what the person who is affected by it is coming from than it is the other way around.
Okay. I agree.
So we're coming in, and police are the best example. Police are very nice to council people. They come in, they're so personable, they're so nice, they're so reasonable. But they're not reasonable when they pull you over, and beat your ass.
Right.
But the council person not gonna see that.
Right.
So when you are talking about getting your ass beat, you gonna be upset.
Right.
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 And that's understandable. So
right.
If you're going to represent people, you need to have that sense of urgency, and that sense of urgency is missing from do I know anybody that I feel has that sense of urgency? Very few of them do. Understand. Folks are dying.
Right.
Folks are dying. Every time the police come up, and what's coming to my mind is that incident in Napier where they ran after that boy through the streets, shooting, and that entire neighborhood was traumatized by that. But yet, you expect them to trust the police and look at the police as their friends when they have no problem running through their neighborhood, shooting when there are children outside. They don't care about those children's safety.
Right.
They have no problem with that. And so, but you expect them to have respect when they talk to you?
Right.
Their kid could have got shot.
Right.
Come on. So there is no sense of urgency. There's no sense of they killing motherfuckers.
Right. Yeah. And it seems like even from community though, it's not a huge sense of urgency from the majority population.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's comfortability, if that's, people or comfortability, that
It's a
thing.
measure of how some of our neighborhoods are completely isolated from the rest of the city, because they're not even going to do that in my neighborhood in Madison.
Right.
They know where they can get away with that shit
Right.
and where they can't. So those places where they run amok like that are so isolated from everybody else.
Right.
Nobody else is having that experience.
Right.
And so you can easily ignore those people over there.
Right. Do you think we're from community perspective? Do you think are we taking the most extreme measures to really get shit changed, or what do those extreme measures look like? Because, this is another hot topic, right? On how far you want to take it, and
No, we're not taking it extreme. We're trying to work with the system.
And this is my approach right now. This is my approach. This has been my approach for a long time. I don't think that the issues that we're trying to solve, combat, get rid of, abolish, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if it happens diplomatically. I don't think it happens. Let me be clear. I don't believe it happens in a diplomatic way. I think it's another.
No, I agree with you. It doesn't happen within the system. But one of the things that I know and that I'm committed to as an abolitionist is to start building those alternative,
Right. Yeah.
those alternative structures
Right.
within the community. Building those up is, and it happens all the time, is a challenge to the system. But if they would leave us alone and let us do it,
And yeah,
you have a safer city.
And I think too, and this is what I'm a big advocate for. Economic power. If and I believe everybody's work can look different, be different, right? But maybe this is people that are listening that want to do the work, or maybe don't want to do the work but want to have some type of impact with the work that's being done. If you're really good at making money, if that's what you do, right? I think the best thing that person or organization, company can do is, if they really want to help a Theeda Murphy build that parallel system, is give you hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to do that.
I agree. Because if I get money from the city's going to co-opt it and control it.
And I think that's why I am. I'm on, and everybody has like I guess their primary agenda they feel like they want to work towards to create that parallel system. Mine is always building Black economic power.
Right.
Because I feel like you can have all the ideas, you can have all the plans, but if you don't have the economic resource to see them through without having to ask the same system,
right,
that is perpetuating the harm, that is causing you to have to react in creating a parallel system, that's a tough space to be in.
Right.
And so I think that's why my mind years ago shifted into, I need to build an economic power base so I can if I have it, I can donate $1 million to BNA.
Right.
I can donate $1 million to Path.
Right.
No exceptions collector. And maybe there's those people out there, and if they are, hey,
right,
throw the money their way, throw the money their way. But I think, that Black economic power, just economic power in general, that's a wheelhouse we have to have if we don't want to have to go to the same system that is perpetuating the harm against us, that is causing us to be reactionary to build these organizations and these parallel alternatives than what's going on.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
But I know that whenever we have attempted, it's not like Black people have not done this, but when we do it, we get I-40 through the middle of our neighborhood in our business district.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we succeed in doing it.
And I think we have to just learn, right? We got to learn. We got to take that. This is like, okay, Like, how do I donate $1 million or $5 million to the No Exceptions Prison Collective, and then they be able to build something to prevent that from happening again, right? Or is it doing what others have done? Like, okay, I have my economic power. Now I know Black National Assembly is building this Black political agenda. Mm-hmm. They're gonna need money to push that because they got to lobby.
Right.
They got to play the game. Right. And you need money. Right. And so I think let's make sure our NSA won't come through because we have electives that we, mm-hmm. We have officials that hey, this is they are aligned with our agenda because we have aligned their pockets. Right. Which that's how that goes.
Right. Right. Which you can do at a local level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the power of local politics.
Exactly.
Which is why I don't really fuck with national politics that much, because the power's in local politics.
That's a fact, and that's why these judicial elections
are so important.
8 years, they're crucial.
Yes.
They're crucial. Theeda, man, it's so much we can get into. We'll have to do a part 2, but I have you.
And I need some pizza.
Yeah. Oh, part 2.
I'm hungry. The system worked up an appetite.
Hey, it's a water right there.
No.
It's a water right there. I see it. Take a couple of sips of that. But is there any message that you want to leave with our Nashville community, our listeners and our watchers about just what's happening, what's not happening, and just how crucial times are and the urgency people need to have during these times, and especially within these election year, and next year being another election year that's coming up.
So I want people to know, because people get discouraged and think nobody's doing anything. It's like, well, no, people are doing.
That's a fact.
People are very busy.
People are
doing
a lot,
and that's our hope. Our hope is that people are not sitting around waiting for other people to come up with solutions. Mm-hmm. You have no exceptions. You need to find a place, right. A political home. So No Exceptions, Black Nashville Assembly, Nashville Community Crisis Response. We are people who live in the community, who are impacted, who are coming up with the solutions to our own problems. Mm-hmm. Free Hearts, I could name Paths.
So many.
Unheard Voices.
Unheard Voices.
So many. And
Choosing Justice Initiative.
Yeah.
It's a lot. We're going to forget some, so we apologize to y'all.
Yeah. But the point is, mm-hmm. you can get involved, and all of these organizations are doing different things, mm-hmm. and have different approaches. So you can get involved with something that fits in with you.
Right. Yeah. Well, Theeda, I appreciate your time. And sorry that we couldn't feed you today. But that water is still right there. But no. Thank you again. I want to give you your flowers while you're here, and just thank you for all the work that you have done, that you're continuing to do, and not being discouraged, not stopping, and just just that Black woman magic, all that good stuff, and thank you for just being also a teacher, to others like myself, even if it's not through conversations, just through your actions.
Oh, thank you.
So no, thank you. And people tap in with Theeda. Go to the website. Apparently, I ain't seen the new website in a year, but go to the website.
Don't be like Jerome.
No Exceptions Prison Collective website. Or Theeda's, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. Reach out to her, learn, ask questions. And so until next time, and we'll make sure, there's food. Thank you, Theeda.
All right. Thank you.
All right.